Guys, it's Dwayne Huff Band Leadership Seminars and Band Leadership Online. Hope you're doing super fantastic. I'm assuming I'm live here. And as I jump in, I want to, well, I think it started over again. So let me start again. Hey guys, it's Dwayne Huff with Band Leadership Seminars and Band Leadership Online. It's been a long time since I went live, other than last night, but I started getting a bunch of questions after going live from students and band directors. And as you can see in the title of this, I had a student question come in on the live video I did yesterday asking me, Dwayne, can you talk about becoming a sophomore drum major? No, I can't. I wasn't a sophomore drum major, but I can talk about becoming a freshman drum major. And that's just as what's the word I'm looking for? It's just as dangerous. So there's that. So before I jump in here, a couple of things. This is Facebook that I'm putting this on, but I'm going to post it onto YouTube. If you're not at YouTube, please go over and subscribe to the channel, and you'll see when I post this live and all the other stuff that I'm going to do live. But I'm going to jump in here and do that. And if you're a band director watching this, share this with your students. And if you guys would like to work with me live this year, or even live virtual, run over to bandleadershipseminars.com, and there's a whole bunch of information, or just reach out to me and we'll talk. But can I talk about becoming a sophomore drum major? First of all, let me say congratulations for being bestowed upon that honor. That's a true honor and responsibility, and I hope you know that. By the way, before I jump in here, little squirrel moment, little ADHD. How do y'all like the setup, the studio? I missed being on stage because of COVID, and so I created a little keynote stage here. Tell me how you like it in the comments. But anyway, so let's talk about becoming a student, a sophomore drum major. I was never a sophomore drum major, but I was a freshman drum major in college. But I was tapped on the shoulder at the end of my freshman year to take on a leadership role, and that's where this all started for me. The band director pulled me aside right before we ended school and said, "Hey, Dwayne, would you be interested in becoming a student leader? We need a student conductor, and we think you'd be a great fit." So that's how it all started for me. And as a sophomore, I was a student conductor. I'll unpack that here for a second, but why it wasn't as huge an honor and responsibility as being a drum major or an assistant drum major, it did set me up for a lot of the things that you're going to face as a sophomore drum major and that I faced as a freshman drum major in college. By the way, for those of you who don't know me, I have a brand called Band Leadership Seminars and Band Leadership Online. I travel around the country and do live events, and I also have an online course in virtual. But that all started because when I was 15 years old and I was tapped on the shoulder to go away to a leadership camp, I met the one and only legend himself, Dr. Tim Lotzenheiser. Spent 2 summers learning from him and spent 2 summers with George Parks, founder of Drum Major Academy. Now imagine that. If you're watching this and you've been to Drum Major Academy, imagine spending a week with the man himself and a very small group of students and a couple of assistants that he had. It was at the foundation of his journey, and it was an honor to be a part of that. So I learned a lot of great lessons. But I always like to say in my live events and even my online course that, you know, most of the things I did as a student leader were absolutely wrong. I had some of the best training, some of the best knowledge and wisdom in the world, but I didn't take it seriously, and I learned a lot of hard lessons. I'll be honest with you, whenever I was a student conductor, it went pretty well because I had 2 great mentors guiding me through it, that were the drum major and the assistant drum major. And then I stepped into the drum major role, assistant drum major role when I was a junior, and then into the head drum major role when I was a senior. I went on to drum major the Louisiana All-Star Marching Band with 5 others, a drum and bugle corps during that summer. Then I stepped into a freshman drum major role at the first college I went to, and then a drum major role in the second college that I went to. And I don't say that to impress you, but just to kind of set the tone for what I'm going to share with you here. Comes from experience. Comes from the things that I did well and did not so well. And I think for the person who asked this question, if you will just trust what I'm going to share with you, heed the advice, and apply what I'm going to share, I think your role and your experience as a sophomore drum major is going to be super okay, extraordinary, and fine. And feel free to circle back on this video time and time again. But here's the first thing I will say. If you're an underclassman going into a leadership role, whether that's section leader, sophomore drum major, freshman drum major, you know, whatever the case might be, there's a couple things going on here. Number one, your peers by nature are automatically going to scrutinize you. Some of them are going to be pulling for you, some of them are going to be pulling against you, and some of them are so oblivious they don't even know you're there. In fact, I learned this as a freshman and drum major. 10% of the people are going to love you, 10% of the people are going to hate you, and the other 80% you can influence if you go about it the right way. So there's that. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. And when I say hate you, I don't mean that harsh. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But there's some people who are going to be envious, jealous, don't want to follow you, dig their heels in the sand, right? And fight against you. And there's going to be 10 who are cheering you on, championing you, wanting you to succeed, helping you to succeed. And there's going to be 80% who could care less either way. And so therein lies your opportunity. And here's what I'll tell you. The first lesson I would say is treat everyone with respect, with care, with a great attitude. Set a great example. Be the very best musician that you can be. You don't have to be the best musician in the band. Be the best musician you can be. Be the best marcher you can be. But above all things, set an attitude example of a positive attitude with an optimistic spirit, fully ready to go, fully engaged, enthusiastic, and passionate. Even if you're not wired like me and the energy's not like this, right? Just the very best energy of who you are every day, being consistent in the way you show up. So what I mean by that is, if one day, if you were like me, if one day you show up and you've got a negative attitude, or you're upset, or you're sad, or one day you're happy and the next day you're excited, and the next, that gives people whiplash, because they don't know what to expect. But your consistency and attitude and spirit and example and discipline and work ethic are the things that you should have in place. Because if you will show up every day with a spirit of humility, and here's what I mean by that. I used to hate that word humility because I thought it meant something it doesn't. See, I thought humble meant that you thought less of yourself. But it doesn't. It doesn't mean that you think less of yourself. It's that you think of yourself less. You see, by the very nature of taking on a leadership role, no matter what it is, you said in that contract that you accepted that you were going to be the servant of all, not the authority of all. Leadership is never about us. It's always about them. And so our job becomes every single day you show up, you connect, you build relationships, you look out for people, you make sure they have everything that they need to succeed. Your band director, your other fellow leaders, everybody in the band, it's your job as a servant to make sure that everybody has what they need to succeed, and you're pulling behind the scenes to make sure. So be humble. Think of yourself less. Don't think less of yourself, if that makes sense. I hope it does. If not, rewind. Watch that again, right? Because our job really becomes that of a servant. And every day we're there to serve the band director. We're there to serve the other section leaders. We're there to serve the other members in the band. Literally being whatever it is they need. Going the distance. Picking up the slack. Whenever we see the fault that is going on and the things that need to be corrected. But in the spirit of a positive attitude, reinforcing, encouraging, not calling people out. I like to say this. I like to say call it out, don't call them out. If you see certain behaviors, and I get it, I understand there's a lot of information, it's a crash course. But if you see certain behaviors that need to be corrected, address the behavior in general. Don't address it specifically to that person, especially not in public, right? But show up with a humble attitude. Be very humble. Be very kind. Be very nice. Be very friendly. Build the best relationships you can and as many relations you can. Even with the people who don't seem to like you, extend the olive branch and try to make a connection and build a relationship. Because the more relationship capital you have, the more forgiving they're going to be whenever you don't do everything perfectly. And you won't. It's just the way it goes. But show up humble. But when you step on that podium, you be confident, you be strong, you be well practiced, you do your job behind the scenes. So when you step up on the podium, you're in control, you're on fire, and you know what you are supposed to do, and you're very confident. But the minute you step off the podium, you go back into that humble servant, great attitude, kind, loving person that builds relationships and helps other people. Now, I'll pause right there because I realized that whenever I took up on my leadership role, by the way, I don't want this to be a monologue. I want it to be a dialogue. So if I'm saying something and you want to jump in or add a comment or ask a question, I think I can see the comments here. In fact, if you're watching this, do me a favor. If you're so inclined, in the comments, drop the website bandleadershipseminars.com in the comments for me, just so I know somebody's there. Or give me a thumbs up or a heart or share this if it helps. But anyway, so that humility off the podium, the confidence on the podium, and the confidence on the podium comes from going to drum major camp or having a mentor that shows you how to conduct and shows you what the responsibility is your responsibility on the podium, so that when you step up there, you're confident and you're strong and you're capable, right? So talk about being a sophomore drum major. First of all, it's servant leadership. You really have no authority other than what the band director may give you. But the only authority that your band director really wants you to have is to set the example, take initiative, have the right attitude, be consistent, and make sure that everything is working the way it should. See, whenever they ask me to be drum major or they ask me to be a student leader, I'm like, yeah, man, whoo, yeah, student leader, all the way. Title, control. Dictatorship, right? I don't know why people call me Little Napoleon. I really don't. I don't know. I don't understand. They're so mean. But we've taken on a servant role. So here's what I'll say: if you want a great experience as a sophomore drum major, or as an underclassman that's going to be a section leader, a band captain, whatever the case might be, and you're an underclassman serving upperclassmen, be on top of your game. Show up before everybody else. Leave after everybody else. We all know the saying, to show up on time is to be late, and to be early is to be on time, or whatever variation you've heard of that. And we as leaders have to exemplify that. Here's another thing I will say. There's a great video. You may want to look it up on YouTube. It's called Why Leaders Eat Last. It's by Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. Why Leaders Eat Last. And I can remember being years ago when I was 15 years old, Dr. Tim saying, whenever you go to lunch today, let's exercise leadership, and here's what that looks like. Let everybody else go through the line and serve themselves before you jump in and serve yourself. Make sure everybody's taken care of before you. And I can remember at that time, it just blew my mind. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? I am hungry. Woo! I still get hangry from time to time because I love to eat. My son's no different. But anyway, so let those people serve themselves, or if you really want to step up your leadership game, find yourself behind the serving. Let's see what I got here. Hey, Lynn, I might be going live on the wrong page. Oh my goodness gracious! Am I on my regular page? Oh goodness gracious! I'll keep going and I'll share it. So if anybody's watching this who knows me, who's not on the band leadership, I just got so excited. I wanted to answer this game. For people, for this person who asked. I've done this before. I've gone live on the wrong page, so thanks for the cheer. Anyway, but step behind the line, man. I've seen this in the corporate world too. I've seen at one bank that I worked for and did some training for, the president of the company who knew leadership and who really understood leadership stepped behind the table and started in the serving line. In fact, all the executives were there serving their people. So leaders eat last. Be the last one. Make sure everybody's taken care of. And if you really want to take it another step and be of service to people, I'm waiting to see what these comments say. Okay, he typed in Russian. I don't understand that, Lynn. I really don't. I'm gonna hit the translator later. But now he threw me off my game. Be that servant. And if you really want to step up the game after everybody's finished eating and you see people finish eating, go take your plate away and then come back and offer to take their plate away, right? It's a humbling game. It's self-sacrificing, and the more you do that, the more people are going to respect, trust, and want to follow you. And I'd say this above all things: build that social capital, build relationship. There's a great book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People that talks about the emotional bank account, right? And it's just like any bank account. If you fill that bank account with money, you can withdraw from it. But the minute you stop filling it and you overdraw, it's bad news, man. You're paying all kind of fees and you have no money. Same thing works with people. So I always say, above everything, learn to be a good communicator. Build relationships with people. And those relationships aren't going to just last through the band season and through the entire season. They're going to last a lifetime if you'll nurture them. And what you're going to find is, see, band is a laboratory for the rest of the world. And I love to say this. I love to, and whoever's watching this is going to love this. I love to say that whenever you grow up and step out into the real world, and you graduate and step out in the real world, you're going to realize there ain't nothing but a bunch of grown-up middle schoolers walking around on the face of this planet. And aren't middle schoolers the meanest people on the face of the planet? There, you have something to look for. But you have a laboratory here in the band space to be able to exercise that. So be humble, set the right example, have the great attitude, take initiative, do things that need to be done without being told to. Serve your peers, have a great attitude, work harder than everybody else, show up before they do, leave after they do, and always be willing to help them rise to the next level. And as a sophomore drum major, as a freshman drum major, or as an underclassman who's leading their peers, here's what you're going to find out and learn. Become a student of leadership. Leadership takes practice, just like your instrument. And you have to give it that same kind of dedication and commitment. If you'll continue to study it and you'll continue to become a student of it, here's what you're going to find when you graduate, go to college, and go into the real world. You got an education in the course of band that most people didn't. And that education is about how to succeed at a very high level in life. Because those leadership skills are going to transfer all throughout your career. You'll stand out when you go out to get a job. You'll stand apart when it's time for promotion. People will gravitate towards you. And you'll very quickly notice that not everybody got the same message. Listen, there's corporate executives out there who do not understand the principles and the things that you're going to be learning as a student leader. So embrace it, study it, become a student of it, practice it as hard as you would your instrument. And always show up confident on the podium, humble amongst your peers, build relationships, be consistent. And I can assure you that you will have a very successful and rewarding career as a leader. And then I would invite you, go get involved in things that you don't have a title and nobody has to follow you or listen to you, and go serve there. And that will really test your leadership abilities. I'm challenged with it every single day and everything I find myself in, to go back to those leadership principles that we learned. So I hope that serves. If you haven't already, if you're watching this and you're a student leader, tell your band director to run over to bandleadershipseminars.com. I've got a free mini course. And the reason I don't want you jumping in there and pulling it, I want you to bring it to your band director because it's meant for all of you. The band director, the student leadership team, the drum majors, to work together to build a strong, cohesive team and learn how to serve and lead each other. And it's an experience that will help your entire band get stronger. So please tell them bandleadershipseminars.com and tell them that I do live stuff. I'd love to come work with you guys. And until then, stay tuned. Run over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/bandleadership. I'm going to post this there, but I also am going to go live there from time to time. So make sure you're there. And for anybody who is watching this who's not on my band leadership page, but it's on my regular page, because I'm having a feeling that I went live on the wrong page. Thank you for listening. And thanks, Lynn, for all the comments. Thank you for putting that in English one time in band camp, he says, right? All right, guys, have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.